Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. Alberta Premier Jason Kenney speaks out at the recent Premiers Conference about how frustrated Albertans are with federal equalization payments. Political reporter Brian Lilly says some are viewing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as a hypocrite from the recent G7 summit in the UK. And as part of National Blood Donor Week, we hear about the importance of donating plasma in the fight to save people's lives.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. Canada's Western leaders plan to push Prime Minister Justin Trudeau this week on a plan to reopen international travel. The announcement came after a virtual one-day meeting of the premiers of Canada's 4 Western provinces and 3 territories. Trudeau and the premiers are set to discuss the border situation on Thursday. Alberta Premier Jason Kenney says the U.S. border closure is having a huge impact on economic recovery. Premier Kenney also discussed the upcoming referendum on equalization payments to be held this October in the province. He says it's all about fairness, and Albertans are getting to be quite frustrated.
What Albertans can't accept is the notion that we've been making net contributions through our federal taxes of over $20 billion a year, even as we've gone through 5 tough years in our economy, while some other provinces have benefited enormously from that, even while they've been experiencing lower unemployment and higher growth. But what really irks Albertans is that some governments across the country that have benefited from equalization have supported policies that have damaged our economy and tried to block pipelines, for example, to create the wealth that we can share across the Federation. This referendum is really just an opportunity for Albertans to speak to this deep frustration.
The Kenney government also announced today that just over 876,000 Albertans have now entered their Open for Summer lottery. The province is offering 3 prizes of $1 million each, along with 40 travel-related prizes as an incentive to get more people vaccinated against COVID-19. Eligibility for the first $1 million prize will close 7 days after 70% of Albertans 12 years or older have received their first dose of the vaccine. So far, close to 3.5 million doses have been administered in the province. As for case counts, they keep coming down. Health officials say there are just 2,804 active cases in the province, including just 105 here in the South Zone. So far, close to 226,000 Albertans have now recovered from COVID-19. Alberta Health Services announced that there are various walk-in clinics now open for immunization. Here in the South Zone, you can receive your first dose of the mRNA COVID-19 vaccine in Medicine Hat from 9 till 3:30 p.m. June 17th and 18th. Same times in Tabor on June 17th. You can also get the jab from 9 till 3:30 p.m. June 19th in Fort Macleod. June 21st and 22nd from 9 till 3 o'clock in Pincher Creek, and in Brooks each day from 9 till 3 until further notice. Lethbridge police say charges are pending following a serious motor vehicle collision which sent 3 people to hospital. Police responded to the collision just before 2 p.m. on Tuesday, involving a car and a semi-truck at the intersection of 43rd Street and South Parkside Drive. The car sustained extensive damage, with 2 occupants treated and released with minor injuries. The 68-year-old driver, however, was airlifted by Stars Air Ambulance to Calgary, where he remains in serious but stable condition. Lethbridge Police Chief Shaheen Medizadeh addressed a number of criticisms of the LPS during a virtual town hall on Tuesday night. He said the ongoing media attention, policing during the pandemic, budget cuts, and the opioid crisis have presented major challenges for the force. Alberta Justice Minister Casey Medew warned the force could be disbanded if problems were not addressed, and said a plan for change submitted to his office had deficiencies. Medizadeh says the department is working with the minister's office to fill in the gaps.
Biggest challenge we had was the allegations of improper database searches. But again, we also dove a little bit deeper into that, and our action plan, we put it on certain pillars, and the work we were already doing in this community since I've been here, many initiatives that we had already started to move forward to build the trust and credibility of the organization.
On Tuesday, Lethbridge City Council voted unanimously to advance the Indigenous placemaking strategy 6 months ahead from the original scheduled start. The plan is designed to review and audit public spaces, markers, and language to create a more inclusive community for everyone. Both council members and the Indigenous Relations Advisor say Truth and Reconciliation will play a big role in making these changes.
Moving the Indigenous placemaking strategy forward by 6 months, and that's all that we've done, means that we can start it sooner. And the value for this for the community is very much about us having a conversation in the context of our community as it currently exists, our Indigenous residents, our Indigenous neighbors, and society as a whole, and not just saying I'm sorry and renaming things, because that's not true reconciliation. It really is about building relationships, Indigenous and non-Indigenous relationships, especially bringing people together to understand.
An important aspect of reconciliation is truth, and we often don't spend enough time in that truth space understanding all the events that have led up to the current realities of today. So moving this project forward allows us to be responsive to the growing community interest in truth-telling and reconciliation, and to do some good work internally to understand how the city can be more responsive to the community.
A full review will be presented to Council with the findings of the public spaces and recommendations for further action no later than February 2022. 3 Indigenous men from Northern Alberta are walking to Ottawa to bring attention to missing and murdered Indigenous women, as well as the many remains of residential school children found at the former Indian residential schools across Canada. They arrived at Siksika Nation Monday evening, and they're now making their way towards Medicine Hat.
The message I want to send to Ottawa is no more hurting or injuring our missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls. And also, I want a proper inquiry into what's going on about our missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls, and also the 215 children out of 517. There's enough hurt in this world. Enough's enough.
My sister, Darylyn Wells, she lost her son, Tyson Crosschild. He was just recently murdered in 2018. I was walking with one of the family members, and she was telling me that, she was walking in Cardston, and this guy pulled up to her, was like trying to get her to go with her. Like it's been going on for far too long, and things need to change.
McDonald says the trio is able to cover up to 25 kilometers a day on foot. A new name has come forward for a trustee position with the Holy Spirit School Division. Roisin Gibb was raised in the division throughout her scholastic endeavors. She says she's running for a seat because it's very important to have parents of students sitting at the board table.
I have kids myself within the school division, and I think it's really important that we have current parents represented. I think that, with the Holy Spirit School District, their mission is to foster good citizens. And as parents, I know myself, I want my kids to be the best version of themselves. So I think that if we have parents represented at the board table, we can truly grow a flourishing school community.
Gibb adds if elected, she would encourage more parental involvement when it comes to making changes in how the division operates. The power of blood and plasma donations can mean saving the life of someone you don't even know. And this week marks National Blood Donor Week. The Plasma Donor Centre in Lethbridge has been open since December of last year, with over 1,400 donors making their way to donate plasma. As Micah Quinn explains now, a Lethbridge man has donated blood and plasma for years because of the people he loves.
Michael Kotchuk started donating blood after his grandmother was diagnosed with leukemia.
She needed a lot of blood transfusions, and it gave me a couple extra years with her, which I was very grateful for. It's my way of giving back by giving blood at the time, and really enjoyed being able to give back to the community and help someone out.
Now Kotchuk is donating plasma at the Lethbridge Plasma Donor Centre. His wife Brenna Scott isn't able to donate due to her having Crohn's disease, and Kotchuk says he donates to make up for her not being able to.
It's a nice way that we have that I'm able to support her and give back, and it's an act that I can do without having to be too much and able to support her.
Scott has dealt with Crohn's disease for 15 years, and she says it means a lot for her husband to donate in her honor.
We made over the switch to plasma. He continued to donate plasma since he knew I couldn't, and it means a lot to me, and it means a lot to all of our donors and our patients across Canada.
Plasma is a protein-rich liquid in blood that helps other blood components circulate throughout the body.
Helps with your immune system and helps control the bleeding in your body too. Once plasma is collected, you'll notice it is a little bit different than whole blood, as it's about a light yellow orangey color. And when we collect the plasma, that's all we collect from our donors. Then we give back their red blood cells and their platelets during their donation process.
Scott says the process for donating plasma is similar to a whole blood donation.
You'll come in, you'll go through the wellness check, you'll go through the screening process just as you would in whole blood, and then you'll have some time on the donation bed. It takes about 35 minutes for us to actually collect your plasma, but it's still just that one needle in your arm, and our staff here are excellent at making sure you feel comfortable and answer any questions that you might have about plasma.
There are 1,500 appointments that need to be filled each month at the Plasma Donor Centre. You can visit blood.ca/plasma to book a donation. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
With Stage 3 of Alberta's Open for Summer plans just around the corner, the need for supporting the charity organizations hasn't gone away. That's why United Way of Lethbridge in southwestern Alberta has reopened a stream of funding for these groups. Roughly $80,000 is available to organizations in the region to support clients in areas such as meeting basic needs and accessing mental health support. The executive director of United Way Lethbridge says charities have been struggling throughout the pandemic to bring in donations and funding.
Charities certainly have seen a decrease in revenue. It's been incredibly challenging for them to find ways to continue supporting the community while seeing decreases in donations. Obviously, a lot of fundraising is done through events and community touch points, right? So it makes it really challenging for them to keep that revenue stream going. So we recognize that it's incredibly important right now for us as a community to step up and support our charities and make sure that those programs are in place, particularly now knowing that there's been a lot of impact financially on a lot of families, and it's going to be a huge challenge transitioning back. So we want to just make sure that everyone has that support going through, and that we rally together and continue to do good work.
Any charity organization can fill out an application to receive funding. To access the form, visit lethbridgeunitedway.ca. So how would you like to spend the weekend traveling around southern Alberta, completing different agricultural activities and taking selfies for the chance to win $5,000? As Carson Marsuki explains, you'll have the opportunity if you participate in Visit Lethbridge's Odyssey 2021 event.
On your mark, get set, go! That's what 110 teams will hear as they start Odyssey 2021 on August 13th. The president of the Lethbridge Lodging Association says the event will have teams competing in different activities to gain points while learning new skills in the agricultural industry.
As part of this, they can expect some surprises along the way. They can expect to be sent out to various locations where they're being asked to do something. And in doing that something, they're going to learn, hopefully, a new skill or have a new unique experience that creates some cool memories.
Teams will start in Lethbridge and follow directions and clues that will take them throughout the region. Along the way, teams can gather extra points by taking selfies at one spot, collecting a designated item at another, and more. The Saturday will be full of activities, and on Sunday their knowledge will be tested. Lethbridge and District Exhibition CEO Mike Workington says these activities will fit into the agricultural sector.
With our partners at Crystal Springs Cheese in Diamond City to be doing some mozzarella stretching, doing some cheese cutting for appropriate weights, with the Benchmark Beef crew at the Munton Ranch, you'll be checking ear tags on cattle. At Diamond Sun Farms in Burdett, you'll be bagging potatoes for market.
Workington adds the partnership between the Exhibition and Lodging Association was to help both industries that were struggling by increasing the number of tourists visiting southern Alberta.
We specifically designed this program to drive people to southern Alberta to learn about where their food comes from.
The cost to enter is $500 and includes a one-night stay at a hotel, 2 meals, a t-shirt, and the chance to win $5,000. For Bridge City News, I'm Carson Marsuki.
The pandemic has created many scenarios, including virtual classrooms. So how do students at a high school dance academy get to show off their fancy moves? They screen it at a movie theater. BCN's Naveen Day joins me now in studio with his next story. Nav, you caught up with the staff and students at Lethbridge Collegiate Institute to hear about their new documentary. Tell me more.
Well, Hal, mass gatherings at live shows may be just around the corner for Albertans, but not in time for students at the LCI Arts Academy Dance. So instead, they chronicled their entire year and will premiere it to the public at the Movie Mill later this month. Artistic Director Jordan Olson shares with us what you can expect to see when the show goes on hits the silver screen.
You're going to see behind the scenes footage of in-class training. You're going to see the dancers working with some teachers in person, like myself and Koji. You're going to see the dancers working through Zoom with different choreographers, and then you're going to see the final product. So for each segment where you see the behind the scenes kind of process it took to create the dance, you then will see the product, which is the dance under stage lights.
The show is not only a treat for the audience, but was also a great experience for the students. They say that taking dance classes and workshops via Zoom was a unique experience, and screening their entire year at a movie theater is a memory that will last forever.
It was such a different experience than usual, and getting to work with choreographers from all over Canada, which was an experience that I wouldn't normally do. I got to get so many different experiences, learn so many different new styles, and create pieces that were amazing.
I didn't ever think that that would happen. You know, usually we dance in front of people and we don't have to watch ourselves, but now I get to go and I get to have fun in a little drive-in and watch like myself and my other Dance Academy students, and I think it's going to be really fun.
It's a memory that I get to keep forever from my high school experience, and it's something that will always remind me what it was like to be part of an amazing academy with amazing directors.
The documentary is set to premiere at the Movie Mills Drive-In June 28th and 29th. For Bridge City News, I'm Naveen Day.
Not only is the Calgary Stampede scheduled to go ahead next month, but now officials say the Calgary Folk Festival will be back. It'll look a little different, however. Single-day tickets will be sold for a reserved space with performances taking place on the main stage. The change means that fewer tickets will be available for the event, which takes place July 22nd through the 28th at Princess Island Park. This year's Canadian lineup includes Jim Cuddy from Blue Rodeo, the Cowboy Junkies, and Hawksley Workmen. Masks will not be required when fans are seated, but will be required elsewhere on the festival grounds. A study by an ecological consulting firm says new coal mines in Alberta's Rocky Mountain foothills would create more environmental problems than economic benefits. Alsa's group was hired by a group of landowners near the area where coal mines are being explored. Its report has been filed with the province's Coal Consultation Committee. It says current methods to remove toxins from water flowing over mine sites are unproven over long times and large areas. The report concludes the province failed to consider the environmental effects that coal mining would create and the impact on tourism. A former Kamloops chief says his First Nations group is on the forefront of pursuing the truth about a tragedy that could have a profound impact for Indigenous people and many other Canadians. Chief Many Jules says family leaders gathered after the discovery of the remains of 215 children at the former Kamloops residential school site to coordinate a unified response.
One of the last things that was said is, let's make sure all of this is done respectfully, because that's our way. You know, we give respect, and we want respect in return. And that's how we were able to facilitate the agreement with the city of Kamloops, because we respect all of the citizens of the city of Kamloops, and we want to be able to work together, because that's how economics works. It isn't isolated to one area. You've got to approach these issues on a regional basis. You know, initially when we started talking about how we wanted to deal with a lot of the issues on the reserve, that goes back to our traditional times, when there were areas where we needed to get together and make major decisions. It wasn't just band meetings, it was meetings of the family heads so that we could deal with issues on an emergency basis.
RCMP employees across Saskatchewan wore red today as a tribute to the officer killed last weekend when he was hit by a truck he pulled over. The grassroots initiative started from within the Indian Head detachment area where Constable Shelby Patton was stationed. Mounties, along with several partner agencies, escorted Patton's body back to Wolseley from Regina today following his death. The force says Patton's family will be holding a private funeral service. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau recently wrapped up a meeting with the other world leaders at the G7 summit in the United Kingdom. It appears as though our PM was caught a number of times not wearing a mask during photo ops. Political reporter Brian Lilly says it was not good that Trudeau, who has been preaching stringent COVID-19 protocols in Canada, did not follow the same guidelines the federal government implemented.
Justin Trudeau is one of these leaders that, of course, is saying that we need to keep restrictions in place. He's set the bar higher than any province has. We're seeing reopenings happening in every single part of the country right now, and none of the provincial premiers have set the bar as high as the federal government wants it to be. Why? They're dealing with reality, He's off in his own world with Dr. Tam.
Catch the full interview with the always colorful Brian Lilly coming up later in our show. Well, we've been enjoying some spectacular weather lately here in southwestern Alberta, and that trend will continue over the next few days. Full weather details are coming up. We had another gorgeous day in Lethbridge, lots of sunshine and a bit of that summer breeze. Jeanette Roche is back with a full look at the weather picture. Jeanette, that summer breeze may begin to pick up a little speed and become more like gusty winds once again.
Yeah, well, we have had some real gusty ones earlier today in the past couple days, and that is going to continue into this evening with a west wind gusting to 50 kilometers per hour. Into tomorrow, we're also going to see a southwest wind at 20 gusting to 40 kilometers per hour at times. So not quite as bad as it has been. So that is the good news. Also, tomorrow, lots of sunshine in our forecast. 26 degrees the high, 26 for Friday. Should be a beautiful couple of days there. Saturday is when the rain could start to fall. 30% chance of showers on Saturday, high of 19. 19 continuing into Sunday. So showers continuing through Saturday night as well. Some of those showers could actually begin as early as Friday evening. So just take note of that as well. So we have a beautiful sunny week, a rainy weekend, what can I say? And then sunshine again on Monday. Isn't that just the case? 24 degrees the high for both Monday and Tuesday. So, but certainly, you know, we're definitely above that average high for this time of year, except for this coming weekend when it's going to be so rainy. Average high for this time of year, 22 degrees, the average low 9. 35 was our high temperature back at 19. 61, and in 1994 we had our lowest, which was -1. 5:23 is when the sun rose this morning, and our sunset this evening will be at 9:41 p.m. So about 16 hours and 18 minutes of daylight. Days getting longer as we creep to that summer solstice this weekend, which it's going to be rainy anyway. So we're not even going to be able to enjoy our longest day of the year. Sunshine on the west coast tomorrow. Victoria's high 22, 21 in Vancouver. 20 degrees in Edmonton and 24 in Calgary. Calgary seeing some wind gusts tomorrow as well, up to 50K. In Edmonton seeing some showers. 21 degrees the high in Saskatoon tomorrow. 26 in Regina. Lots of sunshine. Winds actually up to 60K in Winnipeg. But look at that temperature, 28 degrees and sunshine. Actually Saskatoon rather is going to get some 60 kilometer per hour winds as well. Beautiful in the central part of the country here. Toronto 26, 26 in Ottawa. Montreal's high 25. Definitely break out your sunscreen and your sunglasses if you are in the central portion of the country. It's going to be lovely. Lots of sunshine as well in Fredericton, high 23. Same thing for Halifax. 22 the high in Charlottetown with lots of sunshine. Mix of sun and cloud in St. John's tomorrow with a high of 19 degrees. So there you have it. That is your weather forecast.
Today's weather is brought to you by Jeff Reimer of Royal LePage South Country Real Estates, 403-380-1779.
Stats Canada says the annual rate of inflation hit the highest level in a decade last month. It was partly due to the comparison with prices that crashed early in the pandemic. It says prices increased 3.6% year over year, which is up from 3.4% in April. StatsCan says the annual inflation rate last month was fueled by a 43.3% spike in gas prices and an 11.3% increase in new housing costs. That's the biggest jump since 1987. Excluding gas prices, the annual inflation rate would have been 2.5%. Air Transat announced winter service to the Caribbean, Mexico, the U.S., and Europe will begin once again on November the 1st. The Montreal-based company says that includes destinations where it suspended operations last January at the request of Ottawa during the height of the pandemic. In total, it will offer flights to nearly 50 destinations as restrictions imposed during the pandemic are slowly easing. The company announced earlier this month it would begin a gradual resumption of flying starting on July the 30th. A federal judge in Louisiana has ordered an end to the Biden administration's suspension of new oil and gas leases on federal land and water. The judge ruled in a lawsuit by Louisiana's Attorney General and officials in 12 other states. Those states say the administration bypassed bureaucratic steps required before such delays can be undertaken. The decision is a blow to Biden's efforts to transition the United States away from fossil fuels. Louisiana's Attorney General is hailing the decision a victory for energy workers. David's Tea started its fiscal year by swinging a small profit despite seeing sales plunge by 28%. The beverage company says it earned $3.2 million for the 3 months ending May 1st. That compares with a loss of nearly $46 million a year earlier. Adjusted profits were $1.4 million. Now that's a huge improvement compared to a loss of $6.7 million in the first quarter of 2020. The insolvent retailer plans to distribute $18 million to creditors. CEO Sarah Siegel says David's Tea is preparing to emerge from creditor protection, a radically different organization with a digital-first strategy. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was down just under half a point today to finish at 20,231. The Dow was down 265 points to 34,034. The S&P 500 was down 22 points to 4224, and the Nasdaq was down 33 points on the day to 14,040. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up 3 cents to 72.15 US per barrel. Natural gas was up a cent to 3.25 US. Gold was up 12 cents to 18.1176 US an ounce. Silver was up a cent to $27 US an ounce. Wheat is at $336 per metric ton. Barley's at $340. Canola's at $8.22, and corn is at $405 per metric ton. Live cattle are up $1.08 to $122.30. Feeder cattle are up 88 cents to $157.70, and lean hogs were down $3 to $115.50. The Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours to 81.46 US. Recapping one of our top stories this hour, the Kenney government announced today that just over 876,000 Albertans have now entered their Open for Summer lottery. The province is offering 3 prizes of $1 million each, along with 40 travel-related prizes as an incentive to get more people vaccinated against COVID-19. Eligibility for the first $1 million prize will close 7 days after 70% of Albertans aged 12 or older have received a first dose of the vaccine. Political reporter Brian Lilly joins us shortly to discuss the recent G7 summit and how it appeared our Prime Minister ignored many of the COVID-19 protocols put in place here in Canada. That interview is on deck. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau recently attended the G7 summit, and it appears that he may have ignored many of the COVID-19 protocols in place right here in Canada. To discuss this in more detail is political reporter Brian Lilly. Now, Fox News Brian was making fun of our Prime Minister, saying he had the mask on, then it was off, then it was on again. What gives?
Well, if he was meeting world leaders with official photographers in front of him, then the mask was on. If it was a candid moment at a garden party where everyone was jammed in close together, the mask was off. It was all a little weird, Hal, because Justin Trudeau is one of these leaders that, of course, is saying that we need to keep restrictions in place. He set the bar higher than any province has. We're seeing reopenings happening in every single part of the country right now, and none of the provincial premiers have set the bar as high as the federal government wants it to be. Why? They're dealing with reality. He's off in his own world with Dr. Tam. But when he's in the UK, which is currently having a resurgence of COVID-19 cases due to the B1617/Indian/Delta variant, well then, it's masks off. I mean, the UK, during the G7 summit, the UK announced that they were extending for another 4 weeks before they lift the final restrictions. They were supposed to release those, this coming weekend. Instead, they're going until July 19th. But to our Prime Minister, it didn't matter. To the other world leaders, it didn't matter. And it's got an awful lot of people saying, well, wait a minute. If it's okay for you to be like that, why can't I be like that? Why can't I doff the mask? Why can't I be at a crowded party, at a crowded restaurant, on a patio, what have you? Whatever the case may be where your restrictions are, it's making an awful lot of people sit up and say, he's not following his own rules.
So, Brian, while people were taking pot shots at our Prime Minister, our PM also took a recent shot at newspaper journalists, and it had something to do with fish?
This was just a bizarre comment. He was talking about all the things that they had talked about, the important issues, and talking about how to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic around the world, talking about climate change, talking about all these big global issues that were on the table at the G7, and said something to the effect of, we'll be dealing with this long after the newspapers you write for are used to wrap fish. What? Find me a chippy or a fishmonger that still wraps fish in newspaper. I do go to an actual fish place. now and again to get some fresh fish. And guess what? They don't use newspaper, Hal. And even in the UK, I'm not sure that the fish and chip joints are using newspapers anymore. You're not going into a chippy and getting your carryout wrapped up in yesterday's edition of the Daily Mail. The Prime Minister obviously realized he'd stepped in it, and when he was asked to repeat in French, he said, maybe I'll skip that part about newspapers and fish. I don't want to get myself in any more trouble.
Now, Brian, a big topic of discussion here in Alberta is the referendum on equalization, but federal leaders say they don't want to get involved, not even Jason Kenney's buddy, Conservative leader Erin O'Toole?
No, none of them do. And, you know, you look at O'Toole's comments and then you look at what I was about to call him Prime Minister, Premier Jason Kenney, what he had to say. And Kenney said, I don't expect federal leaders to get involved. O'Toole's comments were to the effect of, this is for Albertans to decide. And he very much realizes that he's an outsider. Erin O'Toole is an Ontario boy. He's got some deep connections to Atlantic Canada due to his time in the military, due to family connections, but he is not an Albertan. And he said that this referendum on equalization and what should be done about equalization should be decided by Albertans. You know, I'll say that's better than his position and the position of the Prime Minister and Jagmeet Singh when it comes to Quebec's bill that tramples all over language rights, or Quebec's bill that tramples all over the rights of religious minorities. I'm talking about bills 21 and 96 here. In those cases, you know, we're talking about fundamental freedoms being trampled on, and all of the leaders are, oh, well, we don't want to talk too much about Quebec. In this case, I actually understand where they're coming from. And Premier Kenney said he doesn't expect nor want federal leaders jumping in on this debate. We know that the Conservatives would be more likely to lean towards Alberta's side, but the Liberals, we know, would lean towards the side of always give Quebec more money. Not that the Tories were much better in power, but they're a little bit better than the Liberals on this.
Now, speaking of Quebec, and you touched on this a little bit here, the Liberal government introduced legislation this week to strengthen the protection of French in Canada as part of the biggest overhaul to the Official Languages Act in what, more than 3 decades? So, Brian, what does that mean for us here in English-speaking Canada?
It means more French, more French, more French. Look, I am very aware of the French fact in Canada. Whether we're talking about the almost 25% of the population who is mostly French-speaking that lives in Quebec, the strong presence of French in Eastern Ontario, Northern Ontario, parts of Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta, you know, up around some of the areas outside of Edmonton, there's still strong French-speaking communities. And I absolutely understand that. But one thing that I learned shortly after getting onto Parliament Hill in around 2005, Hal, is the Official Languages Committee and the Official Languages Act have nothing to do with promoting or protecting English anywhere in the country, including in Quebec, and that the committee's only reason for existence is to promote French everywhere. And so they've introduced this new bill, Bill 32. It will recognize that French is the official language of Quebec, that New Brunswick is officially bilingual, and then the rest of the bill is about strengthening French across the rest of the country. In some places, like Eastern Ontario, like Northern Ontario, like parts of Alberta and Saskatchewan, this makes sense. In other areas, it doesn't. The federal government campaigned against the Ford government here in Ontario to get another French university in Toronto. There are not enough students here to support that, but we're going to pay for it and we're going to do it. So if you want a concrete example of what this bill will accomplish, it will be white elephant projects like a French university in downtown Toronto that will not be able to attract students. In fact, I believe it's only several dozen that applied for the first year of this school.
A new report says the Canada Border Services Agency confirmed it is opening an Office of Biometrics and will use computer chips, Brian, embedded in new passports to track every citizen who travels outside of Canada. Is that not a major infringement on our rights?
Here's the good news, Hal. They can't do it. Not yet. They don't have the technology, even if they wanted to, even if Parliament gave them the power. Because in order to be able to track you, they need to know that you left the country. they don't have exit data right now. You leave the country, you go drive across the border, the United States, you get on a plane, you fly anywhere in the world. They don't know that you've left the country because they don't have the ability to track that. The United States has a bit more of that ability for its citizens, but we simply don't have that ability. And we're talking about something that will potentially start taking place in around 2028, but was approved for experimentation several years ago. So this is going to be a long time before it comes. There's a lot of time for people to be able to push back and say, you know what, I'm not comfortable with this. You know, there have been the option of what's called e-passports for a long time now, in that you could choose to have a biometric electronic passport. It costs more, there's a bit more involved in it, and that's your choice. And if you want to make that your choice, all the more power to you. Have at it. But for those of us that say, I'm not comfortable with this idea, then you should be able to have another option. So if you don't like it, lobby your MP, lobby Parliament, say this isn't a good idea. But also, in the meantime, when your passport comes up for renewal, which mine does very soon, renew for 10 years.
The U.S. Department of Transportation is seeking a $25.5 million U.S. penalty against Air Canada for failing to provide consumers with prompt refunds after canceling their flights amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Brian, the agency said it received thousands of refund complaints since March of last year.
Yeah, more than 6,000 refund complaints from Americans, Hal. So this is not, imagine how many refund complaints there have been from Canadians. And I've been hearing about this since the beginning. Why? My brother's one of the complainers, one of the people who's saying, hey, where's my money? Air Canada, you took my money. You took my money for the flight. Now, the airline has simply been saying, due to everything else going on, they can't refund everybody. And in fact, they have only refunded a portion of the Canadian customers that they have. So Air Canada says that they're going to fight this, that the United States is being a bit too aggressive and not understanding. But interesting that the American government is going after Air Canada before they go after, before the Canadian government does. Now, there was a $5.9 billion bailout a little while ago. Less than half of that money has been returned to Canadians in terms of refunds, both for those who, I will grant the airline this, there were people that had refundable tickets and they got their money earlier, but they've also given out more than $1 billion, I think it's $1.4 billion, for people that did not buy refundable tickets. And now you're maybe thinking, that travel insurance that I always say no to. Maybe next time I want to say yes.
Yeah, it'd definitely be a good idea, you bet. Major General Danny Fortin is asking for a judicial review of the decision to remove him as the head of Canada's vaccine logistics. He alleges political interference by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and not one, but two of his cabinet ministers.
Yeah, those two other cabinet ministers are Health Minister Patty Hajdu and Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan. The reason for that is Danny Fortin, as a member of the military, would eventually report up to Harjit Sajjan, the defense minister, but he was seconded over to the Public Health Agency of Canada, which is under the purview of Health Minister Patty Hajdu. So he was removed, and he says that in addition to political interference, it was procedurally unfair what happened. And I would say that he has a case here. I'll tell you why, Hal. Because Danny Fortin was removed from his post and not told why, not told what the allegation against him was, until a reporter from a TV network called him at his home days later and said, so, what do you have to say about this allegation? And he knew nothing until then. It's also an allegation that's more than 30 years old. That is not an excuse, but you need to actually follow procedural fairness when you're dealing with a case like this. I would say that at least there was no procedural fairness. Whether there was political interference, we'll leave that up to the courts to decide. But that's going on right now. Another black eye for the military on this file.
Brian, you've looked at the numbers and you say that it was a good thing the Trudeau Liberals did not seek a spring election because it may have ended badly for them. Tell me more.
Yeah, well, you know that for months, Hal, I said, oh yeah, we're going to have a spring election and election day will be June 7th or June 14th. That's what I kept saying, that The COVID numbers would stay down, the vaccine rollout would happen, then they bring in a big spending budget. Well, they brought in the big spending budget. That went nowhere. It didn't help them at all. The vaccine rollout, especially through February and really into March, was very spotty, and the COVID numbers took off. We had the third wave. So all of those reasons, the Trudeau Liberals didn't bite. But now we're looking at 33% saying they would vote for the Liberals in several polls. We're talking about Leger, Angus Reid, Abacus Data. Major pollsters are saying that it's 33% for the Liberals, 30% for the Conservatives. Now, when you consider that that's top-heavy for Atlantic Canada and Quebec, and then according to different pollsters, Leger and Angus Reid, they've fallen dramatically in Ontario. That does not leave them an awful lot of room for a majority at this point. Things can change, campaigns matter, but it is very different. Erin O'Toole is not out of this race. Erin O'Toole and the Conservatives are still very much in this race. And when you consider all the bad headlines about Jason Kenney in Alberta and how badly he's doing and voters are upset, or Doug Ford in Ontario, both of them polling in their provinces show that they are ahead of where Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are. You wouldn't know it from the reporting, though, would you, Hal?
That's true, very true. Political reporter Brian Lilly, thanks again for joining me today from Toronto.
Thank you, Hal.
Well, today we're going to do a little bit of bragging about the beauty of southern Alberta. One of our jewels is, of course, Waterton Lakes National Park. And joining us to chat about it is Shamir Suleiman. He is the Vice President of the Waterton Park Chamber of Commerce. He's also the owner of the lovely Bayshore Inn, which is nestled right along Waterton Lake. Welcome to Bridge City News. Shamir, so great to have you here with us today.
Great to be here.
Okay, so for any viewers who have never visited Waterton Lakes National Park, why don't you take a minute, please, and tell them why they should visit this beautiful place?
It's been an interesting summer, especially last year, with so many people from all over this province not realizing that Waterton first was in Alberta. Second, seeing the picture so many times and thinking it was Banff, and then so many Albertans finally saying, you know what? Let's go there. And so we had so many new people that had never been. It was amazing. It was really cool to see so many Canadians that had never been there.
It's amazing that you say that there's Albertans that didn't realize it was part of Alberta too.
Oh, all the time. Anytime I tell anybody in Calgary or Edmonton where I am in Waterton, they'll always give me a second look like, I think I've heard of that. Is that in Alberta? I'm thinking, yeah, it's your province. You have to know that.
Oh, that is unbelievable, because a lot of people like it better than Banff. I know, like, one of the comments that I often hear, one of the comments I often hear is that visitors are surprised how cozy and not crazy busy Waterton is, of course, compared to so many other parks where it's so crowded.
Yeah, I think the big thing that people don't realize is in Waterton, there is only 350 hotel rooms. Whereas in Banff, one hotel has 350 hotel rooms. There's only so many campgrounds, not that many. So there's only so many accommodations to stay. So it only gets so packed. We're not on a major highway. We're off the beaten path. So if you're going to Waterton, you're going to Waterton. So it never really packs up. And the town site's so small and it's spread out so nicely that I think you have the feeling of space.
Okay, that is a really good point too, because it is kind of nestled down there off of major highways and stuff. So what are some of the comments that you've heard from visitors over the years?
For us, it's usually surprise. It's usually, oh my God, this is beautiful. They see the pictures, but when you see it live, that valley view, the Prince of Wales Hotel, walking along the beach, the hikes, you almost feel like you're a little bit back in time, a little bit, because you feel like it's the Banff of 40 years ago, where it's all family owned and operated businesses. So your small town ice cream shops, everybody knows everybody. It's all owner operated. So, you walk into Pat's, you're meeting the owner. You walk into my hotel, you're meeting me. You're walking into all the other restaurants. It's their family recipes for generations that have been there. So it's a different feel.
Yeah, it totally is. Now, there was a lot of construction last year with the building of the new visitor center, right? So when is that going to be completed, and what kinds of benefits will tourists see with this new facility?
So we're really excited about the visitor center. It looks gorgeous. It is, I'm going to say 95% complete. I spoke to Parks Canada this morning. They are pumping the brakes a little bit because of all the COVID restrictions. So they hope to have it open by September, but maybe earlier. But to see it, it's 95% complete. So it's great.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I'm excited about that. You mentioned COVID restrictions. So with those restrictions, you probably didn't have a lot of American or international visitors to the park last year. And that might be the case this year as well. I guess time will tell, right? So how has traffic been and where are people traveling from?
You know, we thought last year, we were really scared. We were hoping if we got 50% occupancy, we were happy. We ran sold out all year, and this year looks to be pretty much the same. So for us, I think there's still so many Albertans that have never been to Waterton.
Right.
So I think we're going to get a big wave of Albertans, and then I think we get a lot of people from BC, Saskatchewan, and the rest of Canada. So I don't foresee it being any slower this year.
Okay, interesting. Now, last season, a large portion of the Townsite Campground was not open to the public, also because of construction. So is that now open for campers?
Yay, it's all complete. It looks beautiful. It's right on the lake. Get a spot if you can. They've completed the entire campground. It's beautiful. And it's open. The only thing that's not ready is the Crandall Campground, which was up the Red Rock Parkway. That won't be ready, I think, until 2023, hopefully earlier, but maybe 2023 is what they're promising us. They started construction now, but that's a smaller campground. But the campgrounds outside the park have also expanded because it was so busy last year. So that should be some more space as well.
Okay, interesting. Now you mentioned, of course, the Crandall Campground, and that's up on the Red Rock Canyon Parkway. Now that one was under construction because of that huge wildfire that happened a few years back, right?
Yeah.
That was back 2017, was it?
The 2017 Kenow wildfire.
Yeah. So I know because of that wildfire, the Red Rock Canyon Parkway and also the Akamina Parkway, they were closed to vehicle traffic for a few seasons there. But I think good news, right? Those actually opened up more recently,
Yes.
right?
Oh, I'm so excited. It's been since 2017, 4 years. And now we have the Red Rock Canyon Parkway open, as well as the Akamina Parkway up to Cameron Lake open. And finally, guys have been out of business for 4 years. They get to start up. So I'm excited to see them and visit them and rent their paddleboards and paddle boats.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it's been forever since I've seen Cameron Lake, and of course Red Rock Canyon is so beautiful, and you got the waterfalls up there and just great hiking. So that is really exciting. Are there any kinds of special events or activities that we should mark on our calendars that the town has planned for the spring and summer this year?
So unfortunately, due to COVID restrictions, we had to cancel the food festival. We had to cancel the wildflower festival. The Pat's Show and Shine car show, we're hoping that will still be a go. That's the last Sunday of August. And then if all goes well, and I'm very optimistic that the Wildlife Festival in September will be a go, and that's the second weekend of September, if it's a go.
Okay, exciting. Now, getting back to hiking, are most of those hiking trails open once again? I know some of them were closed because of those
They
fires,
are.
right?
Yeah, finally the Akamina Parkway is open. Carthew Alderson is open. I think we're back up to 90% of the hikes are open. Tamarack shuttles up to Cameron Lake, so you can hike back down. Those are going again. The guided hikes are going again. So I'm actually so excited about this summer. There's so much. Waterton's almost back to 100%, which is exciting for me.
Yeah, I know you have some amazing hikes. I believe Crypt Lake has been ranked as one of the top hikes in North America, or Canada at least, right?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
North America, and it's a great hike. Great hike.
It's by far my favorite. I think I've done it 3 times now. So speaking of that, you have to get across the lake on a boat. Are those cruises running this year?
So shoreline cruises aren't running yet. They will be running in the coming weeks. I don't know, but they won't be running this weekend. I think next weekend, hopefully, they should have their boats back in the water, and the marina should be open, and they'll shuttle you across over to Cameron Lake. Over to Crypt Lake landing.
So for sure by June, anyways.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, excellent. Now, the well-known Waterton landmark, the Kilmore Lodge, which burned down in 2009, has been under reconstruction, right? So is that going to be open this
Yeah.
summer?
So that's been a slow go, and it was supposed to open. I spoke to the owners this morning, and unfortunately, due to again delays, because right now, uh, because of the pandemic, because of everything that's happening, they're having trouble getting supplies in. So they won't be open till September, is what they're hoping for, but maybe sooner. It really just depends on when everything arrives. But it's built, it's up, it looks great. They're just working on the inside right now.
Okay, great. What kinds of recreational activities are there in Waterton besides, of course, the obvious hiking, fishing, boating?
Um, people always say that to me, especially when I go to trade shows. They're always saying, what is there to do there? Waterton has so much to do. For starters, the golf course was taken over by Lakeland Management, which is exciting. They own a bunch of golf courses. They've taken over ours, and they plan to make big improvements. So the golf course is always fantastic. Stanley Thompson golf course. Horseback riding, they're back in their stables now. We built them brand new stables, or I shouldn't say we, Parks Canada did, and beautiful stables. So that's up and running. That's always great to do. And in town, there's paddleboarding in Emerald Bay, canoeing with glass bottom canoes. Those are really fun to do. And we have a big e-bike program now. So Pat's and Blackiston Rentals, they rent e-bikes that you can take up to Cameron Lake and up to Red Rock Canyon. So those are amazing things to do. And of course, for the kids, the splash park is open right in the center of the village. They built a brand new splash park last year. So that's amazing. And rumor has it there's a roller rink coming in.
Oh, wow.
Where the theater was, but I don't know if that's going to happen. They're thinking about it. Everyone has to try that. That's another amazing experience that came in a few years ago. So that's been great. And then of course all the other staples, all the biking and of course all the hiking and shoreline cruises and all the usual fun stuff there is to do in Waterton.
Yeah, of course. So what kinds of facilities are available for those of us, for anybody who can't maybe stay the night but just want to enjoy the park for the day?
The good thing is Parks Canada has set up picnic tables all over now. So, of course, all the dining you can still enjoy. So many people showed up with just blankets and packed the beaches. And one thing I would love to say, and if you can get this message out, we want everyone to come, but clean up after yourselves. Last year we had a big garbage issue. I think a lot of people aren't used to national parks. We want to remind everyone that anything you bring in for trash, you got to take out for trash. We're a jewel, and it's all for all Canadians, and want everyone to really enjoy it.
Oh gosh, great advice. Absolutely. Keep our parks clean. Now, for those who do want to stay the night or for a week or two, how far in advance would a person have to book ahead for a hotel or a motel or even a campground spot?
Right away. Right away. I think everyone is probably hovering around 70-80% by now, I'm assuming. So if you want for sure weekends or even during the week, I mean it's summer, every day is a weekend. So book as soon as possible. Get it booked, get it in. It's something you need to see. It's in your province and it's amazing.
Right. And I think the campgrounds are booked through Parks Canada website.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. They're booked through the Parks Canada website.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. Now, I know your hotel, Shamir, the Bayshore Inn, has some really nice dining. Are there any other special spots that you like to promote as part of the good eating in the town of Waterton? I know there's a lot of good eats there, aren't there?
Yeah, oh, for sure. That's one thing that Waterton is definitely known for. The Lakeside Chop House is our restaurant. It's right on the waterfront. A place for me is always the Thirsty Bear. For those of you local in Southern Alberta, everybody knows about it now. It's been fully renovated. Amazing food. You have to try Trappers Barbecue. It's right on Main Street. Zum's, I love their fried chicken. Julie's Taco Bar. That's been a staple for the last few years. It's amazing as well. But really, give it a chance and try it all. If you can, it's great. There's a new pop shop that opened in Waterton too. That's great as well.
That's awesome. I like Wieners of Waterton too, with the big smokies. Those are awesome. Those gourmet
They're
hot
always
dogs.
good. Oh yeah, you gotta have a Wieners of Waterton while you're in town as well.
That's awesome. Now, any final thoughts to share with our viewers on what Waterton has to offer, as if we haven't, bragged enough about it?
Covered it all already. For me, I see Waterton a little different. Waterton to me is this slice of heaven. It's this place that when you look at it, and there's very few places in this world that you look at the mountains, you look at the lakes, you look at the sky, you look at how pristine it is, the animals around, and you really realize God's creation and God's land. It's something you got to see, and it's in our backyard. We're so lucky to have it. Everyone needs to enjoy it because it belongs to all of us.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks so much for being with us, Shamir. It's been awesome to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
Shamir Suleiman is the Vice President of the Waterton Park Chamber of Commerce and owner of Bay Shore Inn in Waterton. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks for watching.